online to YouTube, waiting for Twitch. Alright, it is live, I think. Yep, it's live. Alright, it is live. Alright. So, for those of you who have never played Aberant before, it is a 2004, I believe it was, tabletop role-playing game produced by White Wolf Gaming Systems. It is the second in the Trinity, the first being Adventure, and the last being, well, Trinity. Aberant is a superhero-themed tabletop role-playing experience. And I have recently created a Discord server which is based around Aberant. I will, let's see, what's the best way to do this for you guys? Let me go to Nova Age and go over to, what's the best way of doing this? I'll throw it into the chat if you want to join the Discord. That's where you would go for the Nova Age. So, let's see, what's the best way to do this? I could read through the entire timeline of events for you guys to get you caught up on what Aberant is. But I think maybe the best way would be to simply read the in-universe comic book here. From a transcript of New Gods, Humanity's Next Step, narrated by Nathan Black, January 2008. Good evening, Nathan. I love your show. Thanks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nathan Black. You may recognize me from MTV's smash hit show, Maximum Extreme. Okay, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to let it sit on the screen for you guys. And let you guys read. Oh, no, I guess I should read it. Because it might not work for you guys to be just reading it. It might be too boring for you. On the show, we're looking into popular Nova culture and trends from a baseline that's normal humans' eye view, showing you what's going on in the world of the superpowered and the super fabulous. Tonight, however, we're looking a little more closely at precisely what makes these Novas tick. With me is noted Nova paraphysician Dr. Tasman Harver. It's being cut off? Yeah, it's being cut off, probably because it goes into the border. Tasman's EU fiber bodysuit comes courtesy of Anabal Bundai, AB Sportswear line. Let's start with your position, Tasman. What exactly is a paraphysician? Good evening, Nathan. I love your show. Thanks. As we all know, nova bodies are more efficient than those of normal human beings. They heal faster, move faster, break down food into component nutrients with greater results, can withstand greater extremes of stress and environment, and these types of things. As a paraphysician, I specialize in the inner workings of these optimized superhuman bodies. Kind of a sports doctor for the superheroes, eh, Doctor? It's more than being a sports doctor, Nathan. I'm part psychologist, physiologist, physical therapist, field medic, and 2 parts general practitioner. I guess they keep you kind of busy around here. They sure do, Nathan. They sure do. But are these novas really that different? Aren't they just humans with, well, better physical organs? Not quite, Nathan. As you see, novas are more than human, and indeed sometimes something altogether different. Creepy. Not really. Well, maybe a little. I guess I'll step into our research laboratory and I'll show you a bit more about how the bodies of the novas work. Don't mind if I do, Doctor. Wow, it's a Detroit sanctioned public defender, Kickjack. How you doing, Nate? Geez, that's quite a grip, Kickjack. Yeah, this is really weird. I'm not gonna lie. Mr. Kickjack here is gonna be sort of a guinea pig for us in the lab. Isn't that right, Kickjack? You got it, Doc. Can I say hello to someone real quick? Sure. Hi, Mom. Hi, Pop. Kids, stay in school and don't do drugs. And remember, you can meet your potential baseline or novas in Nike sportswear. So, yeah, as you can kind of see, they're celebrities, they're superheroes. Nike, send your endorsement check to. It's an interesting world. It's an interesting world. All right, Nathan, quit fooling around. Come over here and check the generator terminal. Is it going to shock me? Just a little. It'll make your hair stand on end. Touch the terminal, Nathan. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, Nathan's body begins to react to electrical currents I'm passing through it at generator setting of 1. Wow, that was quite a jolt. Now, if you'd be so kind, Kickjack. Now, as a nova, Kickjack can withstand significantly greater electrical current. I'll set the generator output to 10, which would kill a normal man, correct, Doctor? Not immediately, but it would certainly stimulate all his muscles, preventing him from moving, and in some cases it might stop the average human heart. But Kickjack doesn't feel a thing. Not a thing. Well, I feel it, but it don't really have much of an effect. Check it. And that also applies to other hostile stimuli. Stimuli, Nate. Stimuli. Like heat and cold. So basically, novas are. I think you get the idea here. Point. Novas are superhumans. They're celebrities. And this is kind of the world we're living in. When it comes to, they have, some of them have side effects, like Kickjack glows in the dark. That's considered a taint. But that just kind of gives you an overview of the world. As you can see, they provide a lot of background information because, well, it's White Wolf. White Wolf always provides a lot of background information. They really let you get immersed into the world. But what we're going to talk about first is, let's see, do we have an actual example of a character created? Probably not. That's why we're going to create Whiskey Shots, which is going to be my character, or at least one of the characters I control in the RP. So let's start off with the basics. Let's jump over to Whiskey Shots. So this is what your character sheet looks like. This is downloadable on the Discord, and it's editable on the Discord. All you need is, well, Adobe, Acrobat Reader, which is free. As you can see, you're able to edit it. So we're going to start off. Whiskey Shots. Character's birth name. What do we want to call it? What do we want them to be? Weiss. I'll figure out a last name at some point in the future. LLX, of course. Now, nature. There's a lot of details about making a character, as you can see here. And we're going to go through everything. So, yeah, this will be a somewhat long stream, but we'll go through everything. The first thing we've got to look at is here are the natures. Now, I've provided a link to natures, along with a bunch of other information, on the server. So if we take a look over here, and we go down to the vices, virtues, and natures. And we're going to go right down past vices and virtues and go into natures. And look at these. Let me quickly make sure that Bear and I, who I'm doing this for his benefit, is there. Alright, so natures. There's quite a few different options for natures. This is basically a one-word term, one-word descriptor for your character's personality, basically. So you can see here we've got a bunch of different natures. We've got the addict nature. You're hooked on something or someone. You gain willpower whenever you get a fix for your addiction. So if you were to make, say, someone who was an obsessive stalker, that would be an addict nature. And they would gain willpower whenever they successfully stalk their person. If you fail a willpower roll, you'll go to derangement and can go into withdrawal. The analyst. You live by logic and have a goal of understanding everything. Gain willpower when a rational, scientific approach helps solve a problem. And if you fail a willpower roll, you get lost in the details. The architect. You build a better future. Plans are what matter most to you. You gain willpower whenever you create or establish something of importance, of lasting value. And if you fail willpower roll, you retreat to plan something. The autocrat. You want control and take charge, structuring your events around you. You gain willpower when you construct a plan that others will follow. And if you fail willpower roll, you immediately take control over the situation, issuing orders and demanding to be obeyed. The bon vivant. You aren't adverse to a little work, but you want to have fun in the end of it. You gain willpower whenever you have a really good time and truly enjoy what you're doing. If you fail the willpower roll, you must go and party, starting to drink, celebrate, or whatever you have to do to have fun. Which actually, I think for whiskey shots, is the perfect nature. Do they have bon vivant in here? Bon vivant. Bon vivant. No, I need this one. V-I-V-A-N-T. V-I-V. Bon vivant. Alright, bravo. The world's tough. You look out for number one and maintain the upper hand. Gain willpower whenever you gain the upper hand in a long-running conflict, either through your personal strength or the acclamation of power. And if you fail, you will resort to force to take control of the situation. Pumpkin. You believe in a practical approach and common sense. You distrust theory. You gain willpower when you successfully resolve a crisis by following procedures set down by some established authority. If you fail willpower, you resort to the old ways, much like a traditionalist. Bureaucrat. Laws exist for a reason. Your primary concern is to follow them. Gain willpower when a crisis is resolved by following the correct procedure. If you fail willpower roll, you must fall back to the accepted procedure. You will find a law or procedure and make sure that it is obeyed. The caregiver role. You make a difference by helping those around you, and they depend on you. Gain willpower, and you receive tangible proof that you have helped someone. If you fail willpower, you must turn to help those in your party immediately. Celebrant. You truly enjoy and care about your work and inspire others to do so as well. Gain willpower whenever you're able to get the group to party. Whenever you get the group to party for a scene. You must stay at the party if you fail the willpower. Charmer. You know what they need to hear in order to feel good. Gain willpower whenever you say exactly what someone wants to hear. And they forgot to put the fail condition in here. Child. You're immature and childish. You expect others to do things for you. Gain willpower whenever someone looks after you like a parent, either in caretaking, planning, or attitude. If you fail your willpower roll, you will immediately throw a tantrum and it will not stop until someone takes care of you and your concerns. And, yeah, there's a lot of natures. Again, I've linked to it, so you can kind of just follow that and find the nature that fits right for you. Because I don't want this to be too long a video by reading through every line of code, as it were. But, yeah, the nature is basically a summary of your personality, how you gain willpower, and what happens if you fail a willpower roll. So, that's the nature of a character. Now, we have to go over and look at statistics, stats. Your physical, your mental, your social. There are 9 stats in total, separated into 3 categories, physical, mental, social. We have strength, dexterity, and stamina, perception, intelligence, wits, appearance, manipulation, and charisma. Now, something to note is that even if you have the default stamina of 1, because you're a Nova, you start off with an automatic 3 in endurance and resistance. This is because of the, well, improved Nova body. It's just a freebie you get. But let's jump over to the core rules. And let's take us down to the statistics. And I'll read you over the details of what each statistic means, because, you know, that's kind of be important to figure out how they work. All right. All right, so where are we? Trait rating, success and failure, botches, automatic successes, multiple actions, resisted actions. Leave that up to our DMs to tell you what type of roll you need to make. Now, we just need to get over to attributes. Here we go. Physical attributes. Strength. It rates physical power, including the capacity to lift objects and cause damage. The attribute is used to resolve jumps, leaps, and other actions that draw on raw physical power. Strength also determines the base number of damage dice rolled for a successful physical attack. Of course, Novas with Mega Strength get Mega Dice, which are treated on top separately from regular dice. So, there are 5 default rankings of regular stats. Poor is level 1, which means you can deadlift 15 kilograms. 2 is average, so if you have someone who has average strength, they can deadlift about 45 kilograms. So, you know, you have to kind of figure out, if 2 is average in most cases, you're probably only going to have 2 in most stats. You just have to figure out whether your character is... Basically, look at it this way. How would you rate a particular stat for a particular character? Would you say their strength is poor, average, good, exceptional, or superb? As you can see here, this gives us specific details of their deadlift and whatnot, but it basically comes down to that. If we look at dexterity, it's exactly the same. Poor, average, good, exceptional, superb. If we look at stamina, it's poor, average, so on and so forth, without and concern. It's the exact same thing with mental attributes. Exact same with social attributes. Poor, average, good, exceptional, and superb. What I will go over, though, is the description of each category. So you can kind of figure out where you fall on the strength, the dexterity scale, and whatnot. Dexterity measures both agility and hand-to-eye coordination. Describes how fast a character runs, how precisely he aims at a target, and everything that relates to speed, grace, and control. Dexterity determines the base number of dice rolled to determine accuracy in combat, and is combined with wits to calculate initiative. Stamina indicates your character's health, tolerance for pain, and how long she can maintain physical exertion. It encompasses endurance, physical will to live, and sheer toughness. Stamina determines the character's base soak pool. Most Novas develop reasonably high stamina during eruption as a side effect of channeling quantum energies. Mental attributes. So perception. Perception covers your alertness and comprehension. It determines not only your character's attentiveness to the world around him, but how clearly he interprets it as well. Intelligence measures raw mental processing memory, retention, judgment, reasoning, and imagination, as well as your character's ability to find connections between seemingly unrelated pieces of information or analyze complex ideas. This attribute is not a measure of how fast your character thinks, but how clearly he thinks. Wits, on the other hand, ranks how quickly your character reacts to new information and indicates general grace under fire. This attribute describes inherent common sense and how well your character thinks on the fly. Wits combined with dexterity determines base initiative. Alright. Appearance is a combination of physical attractiveness and innate appeal. Call it animal or attractiveness. Appearance is your character's ability to make a good first impression or simply to generate an instinctive response in others. Manipulation measures your ability to influence others. This ability represents an aggressive persuasiveness. It can be subtle or blatant. Manipulation covers everything from leading others to tricking them, from being sly to dominating. No one likes being fooled, though, so failing a manipulation roll has risks. Charisma is the other side of the coin. Charisma is used to charm others and gain trust through natural appeal, your character's force of personality, if you will. It reflects an air of confidence or social grace when dealing with people. Charisma defines how likable your character is to others and whether they actively seek their company. And then we have all the skills, basically, the abilities, which I won't go into too much detail because I think the names are pretty self-explanatory. I just want to get past this section so we can talk about backgrounds. But let's move back to whiskey shots, shall we? So, whiskey shots, in my mind, whose entire character revolves around them basically having the power to create objects, and basically whiskey shots general story beat is that they bought a rundown old building and using their powers were able to turn it into a high-end bar and a high-end bar and pub. So like they created the chairs, they created the bookcases, they created the tables using their powers. And one thing that they're kind of known for is basically creating a plate of shot glasses filled with whiskey, which they then give out to the customers, give out to the clientele. Thus the name whiskey shots. So they're not weak, but I wouldn't say that they're exceptionally strong. I would say they're in the middle of the ground. But being that they need to be able to determine if someone is underage, or see if someone is, maybe not in the most positive mood, I say maybe 3 or 4 in perception. Now, one thing I wanted to do is make them basically a cat girl, because, why not? But make everyone attracted to them. Like, even if they're not into that type of thing. So it kind of messes with people's arousal. So, definitely a point of mega appearance. And other than that, probably only average appearance, but a couple points of mega appearance for the allure. Despite the fact that they may not look all that alluring just in a general sense. No mega strength. Probably a couple dotted mega perception. As she is a cat girl, she definitely needs some good dexterity. I'm going to go up to 5 and throw in a dot of mega dexterity. Now, we said that intelligence is a measure of one's is how they process information. I'm not going to give her mega intelligence, but I will give her 5 points of regular intelligence. And I'll give her a couple points of charisma and manipulation, with a bit of mega charisma, again, to go with the entire allure aspect. I'll go with 3 points of wits, and probably some decent stamina. The mega attributes, as you might guess, are basically just supercharged versions of the regular attributes. So let's look at backgrounds. There's a lot of backgrounds. So that's why we're going to jump back over to... Nope, not this one. So the backgrounds are not associated directly with your character's inherent capabilities, but they are key elements of who she is nonetheless. They help define her history and current circumstances. Backgrounds tie closely to character concept. You must give each background some sort of context beyond just a dot rating. After all, allies, contacts, and mentors have their own lives, gears, and resources, and don't just appear magically. And influence and status aren't handed out without reason. Your storyteller, that would be any of our admins, can give you input on that. But we're still going to go over these things, generally again. Allies. So, none. You spoke about having no one close to you. 1 ally, moderate ability, equivalent to that of a starting character. 2 allies, or 1 significant ally. 3 allies, or fewer allies, of corresponding higher power. 4 allies, or fewer ones of greater capabilities. 5 allies, popular, aren't you? Or fewer ones of immense power. Now, attunement's an interesting one. Generally speaking, a Nova's quantum powers affect only her own body. Novas with this background have learned the trick of charging objects with their own quantum signature, thereby permitting the objects to survive the rigors of the Nova's power, so long as they remain in contact with Nova's body. Attunement is most commonly used to prevent a Nova's clothing and small personal effects from being damaged or destroyed by her transformations. For example, a Nova with Attunement 1 could charge her clothing, allowing it to remain undamaged, even if she activates powers like Immolate, Growth, Density Decrease, Body Morph, or Shapeshifting. Attunement costs 1 quantum point per scene and confers no protection against the Nova's quantum powers whatsoever. Charged objects may be organic or inorganic. Dots in attunement govern the maximum amount of weight affected by it. So, you can kind of see here 1 dot, set of clothing, a briefcase, a household appliance, a piece of light furniture, or another person. You can attune another person. Then we've got backing. This reflects your standing in an organization. So, if you're playing a character who's in, say, Utopia, Project Proteus, The Directive, you'd probably want some points in backing, because this is basically the other people in the organizations. This is basically your ranking. So your typical grunt, low-ranking position of little authority, but a fair amount of usually dull and unpleasant responsibility, so on and so forth. Cipher is basically how well you can keep your secrets. So anyone trying to investigate your character has to go through your cipher rating. Contacts are more casual than allies. They're, as opposed to someone you might be able to call upon who can give you help in sort of like an NPC ally type of situation. Let's say you have allies 5. Maybe you know Castius Pax, and you're in a really bad situation. You call upon one of the most foremost and well-known Novas in the world, Castius Pax, or Divismal. Contact would be more along the lines of being able to get information through a contact. So instead of doing the research yourself or the investigation yourself, you can go through your contacts. It's a level below allies. It's the people who offer assistance but are more on the outside of your area of expertise or your area of focus. Dormancy is an interesting one. This is another Nova specific one. Dormancy is the ability to suppress your powers, essentially turning yourself back into a baseline. You suppress your taint, you suppress your mega attributes, you suppress your quantum abilities, and you basically disguise yourself as a normal baseline human. Think about power suppression in Dragon Ball Z. This is essentially what dormancy is. It's being able to suppress your power so people who can detect novas can't actually detect you because, of course, obviously this all depends on how well their roll goes versus your dormancy roll. EU fiber technically could be obtained by a civilian, by a non-nova. It's basically just a special type of living clothing. Think symbiotes from Marvel. EU fiber is basically spandex, but the spandex itself is attuned to you for free, so you don't actually need the attunement thing. It can store some quantum points, and it actually, if I remember correctly, offers some very basic defense. So you can store some quantum energy in there and then basically call that quantum energy later when you're like out of quantum power. So it's like a reserve of power. Followers are even, even lower level than contacts. They're the people who basically just kind of follow you around. They're like basically your fans. They might have a useful trait or skill, but they're generally about as far on the outside of your sphere of influence as possible. Meanwhile, mentor is, as the name implies, a patron, a teacher, someone who is basically on your side. As it says here, while a mentor won't always respond to your character's request for help, he always acts in her best interests, or what he considers best. A mentor-student relationship is a concept and personal association that entails responsibilities on both sides. It should be the subject of an evolved roleplay. Influence is your fame. It's just your straight-up fame. Let's be honest. A node is the lump of grayish flesh about the size of a marble. It can grow bigger. That's pressed against your skull inside of your brain case. And it's what gives you your abilities. So if someone removes your node, you don't got no abilities. And the node, it has a side effect of having a large node. If you have a large node, you get some taint. And if you get a lot of taint, then you can get aberrations, which are negative, basically side effects of your powers. Because, if you've got a level 5 node, you can spend 20 quantum points a turn, and you've got 3 points of taint, so you've got probably a baseball-sized tumor in your brain that gives you all your powers. So yeah, unless you want to deal with a giant grayish blob in the back of your skull putting pressure on your brain, you probably want to stick to only having 2 points at most of node. But hey, if you want to deal with having a little bit of taint, a little bit of decay, and possibly some mental aberrations, you can go all the way up to the 6th instellar node, which is, 5 points. Resources are... So, if influence is your fame, resources is the amount of money you pull in. It's like, what's your income? And then we'll deal with willpower separately. So let's go back over to Whiskey Shots, shall we? Whiskey Shots, as we mentioned, is working solo. So, give him 1 point of EU fiber. It's not the most impressive suit of EU fiber that's ever existed, but it's nice. And it's attuned to their powers. No dormancy. Resources, I'm going to say about 2 dots because they own a bar. I'm going to go with 2 dots for node. So they're pretty powerful when it comes to node, but, no negative effects yet. I'm going to go with about 4 points of attunement. And I'm going to say their influence is about a 1. You know, they're the Nova bar owner. People kind of know about them. Alright, so let me save that. Let's go back over and talk about willpower. Willpower trait measures drive and emotional stability. A high score reflects a confident, self-motivated individual, while a low score indicates someone with little confidence or perseverance. Willpower has a permanent rating, also called the score, that affects your character's total strength in the trait, noted by the circles on the character sheet. Whenever a roll is called for, the dice pool is always based on the permanent score. Willpower also has a current rating called points. These indicate your character's present reserves. Your spending points refers to removing points from the current rating, noted by the squares on the character sheet. Current ratings can fluctuate greatly during a story, and basically, if let's say someone with mind control powers were to try to dominate whiskey shots, you could spend a willpower point to just straight up negate that effect, depending on other circumstances. Or say that Whiskey Shots fails a willpower roll. You could spend a willpower point to succeed the willpower roll and thus not fall into your failure trap. Basically, willpower is all about your force of will, but you only have as much temporary points as you do permanent points. So if you only have 1 point of willpower, which is the minimum, then you only have 1 spending point. So let's go. So yeah, as I was saying, free successes. You can spend a willpower point to earn an automatic success. The free success is separate from any that you roll, but it counts toward your success in action. You must declare that you're spending willpower in this fashion prior to rolling for the action. Only Novas may use willpower in this way. You can use it to resist an instinctual response. Sometimes the storyteller may have your character react to something out of instinct, whether fear of a monstrous aberrant, revulsion at the sight of a gruesome corpse, or lust for a stunning individual. Your character can resist this urge with the expenditure of a willpower point, although the urge may return depending on circumstances, calling for further expenditures. To resist taint. When a taint-induced mental disorder causes your character to do something she would rather not do, you may spend a willpower point to resist. However, you must do so each time you make such an attempt. And again, resisting mental powers. Your character can resist the effects of some mental powers with the expenditure of a willpower point, or upon a successful willpower roll. The specifics depend upon the power being used. Refer to Chapter 5 Powers for details. And then Max Quantum Power. A Nova's player can spend a willpower point to max a quantum power, enabling a Nova to enhance the effects of the power. So you focus really hard and you can get more out of, say, a energy bolt than you normally would. Think about Gohan taking on Cell. That would be an example of max quantum power when he did the one-handed Kamehameha. That was him spending a willpower point, essentially. Once all of your willpower points are gone, your character is subject to a compulsion. Your innermost nature comes to the forefront of his personality. It dictates your thoughts and actions. Compulsions are the weaknesses mentioned at the end of each nature description. An animal becomes distracted even by the most mundane of huddles. A bravo acts without thinking, using brute force or bluster. Acting at extremes can be very liberating, but also can cause serious problems. While the likelihood of regaining willpower increases as your character behaves true to their nature, operating under compulsion can make your character ignore important information, regard otherwise obvious warnings, or be manipulated easily. When at least 1 willpower point is regained, your character shakes off the compulsion, reasserting their self-will. Willpower points are regained whenever your character gets a chance to rest or restore his self-confidence. The storyteller is already the final arbiter of when and how willpower point is regained. Alright, so then we're going to move on to Quantum next. But let's go deal with Whiskey Shots. What was the detail? Because Whiskey Shots was pretty confident running a bar and all that. So let's see. Where is it? Hesitant, diffident, certain, confident, determined. I think somewhere between confident and determined, so I'm going to go with 6 points. Quantum. Quantum energies throw throughout the universe and all things within it. These energies bind matter together and throw it apart. Harmonize energies and disrupt it. All affect living things in their everyday existence. Mystic, even arcane as it sounds, quantum energy is in fact derived from scientific principles, albeit scientific principles which humans have little understanding at the present. A nova's ability to control and manipulate quantum energies is their powers. Every nova starts the game with a quantum rating of 1. Quantum can be increased with bonus and nova points, which we don't really worry about this. I let you basically make a character as weak or as powerful as you want, subject to, moderator approval. If you make a character who's got maxed out everything, we're probably going to reject you. Unless you can come up with a really good story. Although quantum can theoretically reach as high as 10, no character may begin the series with more than 5 quantum. Again, we're throwing out that rule. You can make your character as powerful as you want, as long as you can justify it. But this is the important thing. Characters automatically acquire a point of taint when their quantum score reaches 5. So, since I'm not sure what I want to do with Whiskey Shots at the moment, I'm going to give her a quantum of 4. That gives her quite a bit to work with. Now, an important effect of quantum. The more quantum a nova has, whether tainted or not, the less human he looks. His quantum may make him grotesque or may make him impossibly perfect and beautiful, but observers can tell he isn't baseline. The effects of quantum upon a character's appearance depends upon the character's power, the player's desires, and the storyteller's whims. Most power effects are based, at least in part, on a nova's quantum rating. For example, Quantum Bolt has a range equal to 15 meters times dots plus quantum, and inflicts quantum times 3 levels plus power rating times 4 dice of bashing damage, or quantum x2 levels, power rating x4 dice of lethal damage. Similarly, some powers have a quantum minimum. They work only for novas who have a quantum rating of a certain level of higher. A nova's quantum is not that high, cannot purchase those powers. To the strong go the spoils. And if I recall correctly, yeah, Quantum Pool is something we're not going to deal with at the moment in this discussion. But let's go over Taint. So Taint is... Quantum energies are powerful and are channeled by the human mind via the MR node, often unpredictable as well. Even when novas think they have those energies under full control, often they do not. The growth of an entire new gland, the MR node, coupled with the quantum energy seething through the body, changes on even the strongest nova, and the most powerful nova gets, the more changes he becomes. This effect on nova is represented by Taint. All characters start with the character creation process with a Taint rating of 0. The more points of Taint a character accumulates, the stronger and more inhuman he becomes, until he becomes an unplayable god monster and falls under the storyteller's control. As with Willpower, Taint ranges from 0 to 10 and has a temporary and permanent track. Unlike Willpower, temporary Taint is not spent. It is gained, as the character mishandles his power or tries to channel too much energy. Permanent Taint is a result of the nova's body and mind warping beyond human ken, the tragic side effect of channeling energies human beings were not designed to handle. Characters begin the game with 0 temporary Taint, but may have a number of permanent Taint points for them to acquire. Depending on the shortcuts they take during character creation. Gaining permanent Taint. Unfortunately for novas, there are many ways for them to acquire Taint. They walk a razor's edge between power and insanity, might and destructive force. Ways in which to acquire permanent Taint include too much quantum or node. Quantum represents a basic measure of a nova's power. As we mentioned before, when a nova's quantum reaches 5, he acquires a point of Taint. Each point of quantum gains thereafter adds another point of Taint. Power definitely has its price. Similarly, a nova whose MR node becomes too large, and the game turn whose node rating is 3 or higher, acquires Taint. The exact amount of Taint and some notes on the possible effects of Taint are discussed on the node background. You can also buy tainted quantum powers. Now, this is more of a storytelling thing. since we're not really tracking points, you have to decide yourself if you want to taint your powers, because again, you can be as powerful as you want or as weak as you want. It's up to you. But you can basically buy powers at half cost by tainting them. If a Nova gains 10 temporary taint points, she immediately trades those in for a permanent taint point. Her temporary taint track is reset to 0, but she now has an extra point of permanent taint, as well as any aberrations that acquire it. So, Power Strain, you can gain temporary taint from. Rapid Recovery, if you try to force the recovery of your energy. Mental Disorders. Temporary taint can be forcefully bled off, though the process is difficult. The character undergoes an entire story or month of downtime, either dormed down or utilizing all quantum powers or mega attributes at a maximum of half normal strength, and does not botch any power rolls in the process. The player may roll a willpower point and roll the characters at the end of the story or downtime. The willpower roll is made at +1 difficulty for each point of temporary taint stored over the first. Success on the roll bleeds off 1 point of taint. 3 or more successes bleeds off 2 points of taint. Failure indicates that no taint can be bled off. A botch adds another point of permanent taint. Permanent taint, unless acquired, is just that, permanent. No reliable means of reducing permanent taint are known as of 2008. Now, as you gain permanent taint, you get aberrations. And there's all kinds of things that you can have for aberrations. Aberrant eyes, anima banner, bulging muscles, colored skin, feeding requirement, hormonal imbalance, lust, rage. You can glow, like Kick Jack does. You have mental disorders. You can have unearthly beauty, which is what I'm going to do with whiskey shots. You can have twisted limbs. You can be vulnerable. So let's go over to whiskey shots. We need to have at least 1 point of taint. And let's see if we're going to go over to aberrations. Now we're getting into the fun part, because now we're going to deal with the actual powers. Quantum powers and mega attributes. So mega strength. Best known mega attribute. It's certainly the least subtle. Novas of mega strength usually have enormous muscles and a love of showing off what they can do with them. In Nova Starfield, it's complex to seeing them tossing cars around, smashing through buildings, picking up ships, and crushing guns into paperweights. So, we're just going to go take a quick look at the 5 levels of it. Stupendous, Olympic weightlifter. You can deadlift 1,000 kilograms and gain 5 automatic successes to strength and might rolls and close combat damage by pools. When your moving truck breaks down, you just pick it up and carry it to your new home. You can deadlift 10 tons, gain 10 automatic successes. 3, you can toss automobiles for blocks. You can deadlift 25 tons and gain 15 automatic successes. 4, 50 tons. You gain 20 automatic successes. You can juggle tanks. Godlike. Now, there is a restriction to mega attributes. The attribute that it's tied to, whether it be strength, perception, whatever, has to be at the same level or higher. So, godlike 5 means you have a minimum of 5 strength as well. You can deadlift 100 tons. So let's go take a look at whiskey shots, see if I overlooked anything in the mega attributes. So yes, you can see I got mega appearance 2 and appearance 2. That's the minimum requirement. I have mega charisma 1 but charisma 3. That is perfectly fine. You can have less mega attributes than your normal attributes. But let's see. Nope, I don't see anything here. Like, for example, if I were to say have mega appearance 3 but appearance of 2, that's a no-no. You have to have at least an appearance of 3 if you're going to have mega appearance of 3. So those are our mega attributes. That's mega strength that we've talked about at least. Mega dexterity. A Mega Dexterous Nova is faster, more agile, and stealthier than normal. He is often better reaction time. Mega Dexterity is especially useful for Novas whose powers are not quite so overt or flashy. The Mega Dexterity rating is added to the character's initiative, run, and sprint scores. Furthermore, when a Nova with Mega Dexterity is in combat and other characters try to use a delayed action to interrupt the Nova's action, the interruption is not automatic. Instead, both characters must make a Dexterity roll. The one with the most successes goes first. If a Nova with Mega Dexterity and a character without it act at the same time, the Mega Dexterous character is automatically considered to have the higher initiative, and thus gets to go first. And you can kind of see here, from the special effect, you can even have enhanced movement, fast tasks, cat-footed, flexible, rapid strikes, Mega Stamina. So, you're more durable, more resistant to injury. Not necessarily more resistant than those with actual defense powers like force field, armor, but they're definitely tougher than the average Joe. And so if we look here, with a Mega Endurance of 1, you can go for weeks without sleep. Your healing rates are tripled. Base resistance and endurance are still 3. Lifespan is 150 years plus. Dice pool penalties due to energies and pain are reduced by 1. The character receives 1 extra soak against bashing damage and 1 extra soak against lethal damage. What did I give for whiskey shots? Mega Stamina 2. Because at some point they actually will give you more endurance and resistance as well. Torturers at rank 2. Torturers despair of breaking you. Your healing rates are 4 times faster than the baseline human. You have 150 years, and your endurance and resistance are 3. Your dice roll penalties due to injuries and pain are reduced by 2. You gain 2 extra soak versus 2 extra soak versus bashing. And 1 extra soak against lethal. At rank 3, participating in a few triathlons in a row doesn't even phase you. Your healing rates are 5 times that of a normal human. Your base resistance and endurance rating begin at 4 each. Your lifespan is 180 years. Dice roll penalties are reduced by 3. You receive 3 extra soak versus bashing and 2 extra against lethal. And you gain an extra bruised health level. 4. Bullets practically bounce off your chest, and your healing rates are 6 times that of a baseline. Base resistance and endurance are 4. Lifespan is 200 plus years. Dice pool penalties due to injuries and pain are reduced by 4. The character receives 4 extra soak. And of course, godlike. Missiles practically bounce off your chest. Your healing rate are 7 times better than normal. Your base resistance and endurance ratings are 5 each. Lifespan is 250 plus years. Dice pool penalties due to injuries and pain reduced by 5. The character receives 5 extra soak versus bashing, so on and so forth. I'll probably go over the enhancements in a separate video, because they're worthy of a discussion all of their own. Anyway, Mega Perception. Ask a normal person to describe what he just walked past, and he probably won't be able to tell you too many details about it, if any. That's not true of Novas with Mega Perception. They take it all in, every detail, every nuance, every little fact. They may not remember them very long. That's a function of intelligence. But they don't overlook things. They make excellent sentinels, guards, detectives, and trackers. Alright, so at level 1, you remember license plate numbers of all the cars you just walked past in the parking lot. At 2, even the tiniest details are like information beacons to you. At 3, you can tell when a person is thinking by the way the nerves in their face twitch. That's Mega Perception 3. You can locate a single person in an auditorium by their body odor or perfume. You can hear wool growing on the back of sheep. That's Mega Perception 5. So we could go up here. Mega Perception 3. Because definitely being able to tell people by their... I'm going to go all the way up to 4, actually, with this character, because that kind of fits. If we look here, we can locate a person in the auditorium by their body odor or perfume. Now, I think going by the face, their way their body and their face twitch fits more with what Whiskey Shots is by being able to identify people. So, we'll go with Mega Perception 3. And then Mega Intelligence. A character with Mega Intelligence is intelligent beyond the dreams of even the most geniuses. His ability to make deductive leaps from unrelated facts to conclusions, to solve different problems, to analyze situations is nearly unparalleled. In some cases, Novas with high Mega Intelligence ratings have put powerful computers to shame. In fact, even 1 dot in Mega Intelligence effectively indicates a human IQ scale can no longer be applied to the Mega Intelligent Nova. You do advanced calculation problems in your sleep. 2. Super geniuses look at you with envy. 3. An auditorium full of professors doesn't even have as much brain power as you. 4. Your memory for even the most trivial details never fails you. And 5. You make supercomputers look slow and stupid. And that, I believe... No, we still have to go to Mega Manipulation, don't we? And Mega Charisma. And Mega Wits. But I think that's both physical and mental. I think we're finishing off mental. Mega Wits is one of the most disturbing mega attributes for normal humans to deal with. Watching a Nova pick up a truck or outrace bullets just seems sort of surreal after a while. But to see someone standing there calmly in the middle of a firefight or working a social situation like a grandmaster who can see 20 moves ahead is disconcerting. It's strange to see such level-headedness in the face of terrifying, to normal human, danger or the application of superpowers in such ordinary situations. Even when bullets are whizzing past your head, you remain calm and collected. 2. Everyone around you hangs on your witty words. 3. Nothing surprises you, and even if something did, you'd never show it. 4. Fooling you is about as easy as fitting an elephant through a doorway. Godlike. Nothing on earth can disturb your savoir-faire. Mega Appearance. Each dot of Mega Appearance represents good looks, grants an additional die on all style rolls. The direct character's beauty or handsomeness is such that he does make even worth clothing look good. Not fashionable, mind you, but good. Similarly, the character usually makes for a good first impression on looks alone. So, level 1. Miss or Mr. America looks plain next to you. You receive 1 extra die to all style rolls, in addition to your Mega Attribute dice. A face that can launch at least 100 ships, if not more. You receive 2 extra dice to style rolls. Okay, at least 500 ships. Helen of Troy, Adonis. You receive 4 extra dice on all style rolls. Aphrodite, Freya. You receive 5 extra dice on all style rolls. And then we have Mega Manipulation. I'm just going to go read through the descriptions for you, because I think that kind of gives you the idea. Experienced con man, regard your skill with reverence. You receive 1 extra dice on any roll to detect or resist attempts to manipulate or trick you. Even lawyers can't twist facts and persuade others as well as you can. You receive 2 extra dice on those particular rolls. People will follow you to the ends of the earth if you ask them to. Odysseus would admire your cunning. And Loki and Athanasi regard you as an equal. And then we have Mega Charisma, which is the less seedy side of the social roles. Even your worst enemy finds you likable. You can spill food and drink all over yourself and still seem elegant. 3. Not even a tornado can ruffle your feathers. Even in the most terrifying situations, you're poised and charming. Bitter, lifelong enemies will make peace just to be able to spend time with you. And godlike. Even alien races find you fascinating and personable. Let's take a quick look over at Whiskey Shots. Yeah, 1 point of Mega Charisma makes sense. And now we get to the meat and potatoes of it. Quantum power. And there's a lot of quantum powers, so I'm just going to go over their basic details. Because there's even more powers than are in this particular book. I'll just kind of, go over them in broad strokes. Absorption. The Nova converts damage or energy into strength at the rank of 1 dot per success to the limit of the damage done. So this would be, what would be a good example of this? Miss Marvel, maybe? Cat Carol Danvers? Where she can turn an energy attack into strength. That's essentially what absorption is. It's, or like, magic absorption in Skyrim, where you basically, turn excess magic into magicka. That kind of be an example of absorption. And there's animal and plant mastery. Communicate with summon animals or plants. Pretty self-explanatory. And of course, but let's see. Let me give you sort of an example. If you want to throw a limitation on this, you could basically do Aquaman. You know, the ability to communicate only with sea life. While you can throw an extra onto this, and it becomes nature mastery. Character can exercise both animal mastery and plant mastery. Armor. Character receives bonus soak versus bashing and lethal damage. It can be described as having thick, chitinous skin, a glowing force field. So not to be confused with the power force field, which has its own nuances. Or, say, metal plates that cover his body, like Colossus. So it's basically a natural armor. And there's fun things you can do with extras. Like, for example, the one they list here is super heavy armor. It can spend 3 quantum points to fortify their armor for scene. While fortified, the Nova's armor provides 4 extra soak versus bashing lethal, and difficulty to hit them increases by 1. However, they lose 3 from initiative. And I'm just going to quickly jump over to the end point here and kind of just briefly talk about extras in general. You could throw an extra onto a power and that increases its level by 1. Again, not really relevant to us because of, again, free reign to make powers. But it's nice to kind of get an idea of what extras you can, because not all extras apply to all powers, but if we look at them, which is taking me a while to actually get to that section. They give you a lot of powers in just this one book. Alright, here we go. Extras. So here are some examples of extras. This extra, when applied to a power that causes bashing or lethal damage, makes the damage aggravated. And basically aggravated damage, in most cases, cannot be soaked. Unless you have a specific defensive power that's specifically designed against resisting aggravated damage cannot be soaked. Bashing damage is the easiest to soak. You have the most resistances against bashing damage. Lethal, as the name implies, is a lot harder to soak and will most likely be lethal. Aggravated damage, you just can't soak it unless you specifically have powers to soak it. Most powers, as you will see here, like even with armor, it only offers bashing and lethal protection. Doesn't mention anything about aggravated, because aggravated is in a class all of its own. Area. So let's say, for example, we threw area onto armor. This would allow you to blanket the power into an area of effect. It only applies to powers such as Quantum Bolt that don't have an area of effect. So, basically powers that are limited to Stealth Scope or Fire and Forget. But basically, the area power would be able to... Let's say you took armor and you were to describe it as a force field. That would be allowed you to project the force field into an area. Armor piercing. So armor piercing is sort of the lesser cousin of aggravated, it ignores 2 levels of soak, but does the normal damage it normally does. So you can obviously see doing armor piercing and aggravated is kind of superfluous, since aggravated, unless they have special defenses, they're not going to be able to soak anyway, while armor piercing ignores 2 levels of soak, so if they're already not doing any absorption of the aggravated damage, it's kind of pointless to be armor piercing. Burning, typically for attack powers, but burning inflicts normal damage when it first hits and continues to burn the effect on subsequent turns. But, of course, you can easily think of other ways that burning might be applied. Maybe you apply burning to armor, and when the armor wears off, it kind of burns off. So the armor doesn't disappear immediately. It takes a few turns to disperse. Cloud, again, mostly with an attack power, but you can apply it to anything if you're creative enough. Basically turns the power from a beam into, say, a cloud of gas, like an acid aura. Explosion is similar to area, but it works differently. It covers a bigger area, but the effect decreases gradually over distance. Homing, as the name implies, locks onto a target and follows it no matter where it tries to move or dodge. Impervious is an effect or defensive powers like Force Field. Impervious soak is not reduced by armor piercing, and it converts any aggravated damage into normal lethal damage, which can be soaked normally. So that would be the type of thing you would need if you want to be resistant to armor piercing and or aggravated. Increased duration, the name implies if a power has a duration, it's doubled. This doubles the range. Merv attacks basically splits an attack off into multiple things. So basically, what would be an example of that? Not really relevant, because that's more like just using a bunch of quick attacks, but imagine the key blast spam that you see in Dragon Ball. You could see that sort of like as a Merv, but imagine you fire off one attack and it splits off into several others. You can boost range. You can reduce quantum cost. Spray jet basically turns your quantum bolt, for example, into a flamethrower instead of a mist. And those are just some examples. You can always come up with ideas and talk with the admins about extras to throw onto your power. Alright, so let's continue on. Now, this is an interesting one. Bioluminescence. 10 minutes per sec. It's basically you glow. I'm not beating around the bush here. Body modifications. This is a level NA power. And basically it's miscellaneous powers that alter your body in some way. Like, say, having an adhesive grip, which allows you to bond to objects and walk up walls. Or chromatophores, which allow you to change your skin's color, like a chameleon or a squid. Or extra limbs, or wings, webbed hands and feet. Tendrils, or tail in the case of whiskey shots. Spines, gills, extra health levels. You can just buy straight up extra health levels if you want. If you want to be really durable without taking a mega endurance, you can just buy extra health levels. So, body morph is sort of the spiritual other side of absorption. Body morph is you turning into something, sort of basically the Human Torch. But, you know, there's different ways you can do it. You can turn into energy, gas, liquid, stone, metal, other hard objects. Here's an example. Houston Tornado buys 4 dots of the body morph air power, defining its ability to turn to wind. She automatically may move through the air at running speed and use the asphyxiation combat maneuver. Boost. This basically ability allows you to add 1 dot to a specified attribute. The power and the power fades over time. So you can basically you can boost your strength, or boost your speed, boost your appearance. I'm not sure how you would explain that, but basically it allows you to boost a attribute for a short period of time. Claws, as the name implies, and as the picture sort of shows, converts characters' close combat damage into lethal damage by growing, well, claws. They could be a field of hissing quantum energy around the character's fist, or like Iron Fist of Marvel. He would be considered to have claws. Or he could have Quantum Bolt with a limitation of 0 range. Clone. Creates a duplicate of the character. Then we got cyberkinesis, which is control computers and machines. This is a pretty complicated power, so they give you all these sort of like subcategories of it, but basically it's cyberkinesis. Density control. You can increase or decrease the character's density for intangibility or higher armor-like protection. Disintegration. This one is something that does aggravated damage by default. So instead of taking Quantum Bolt and throwing the aggravated thing onto it, you just buy Disintegration. As the name sort of implies, you're basically reducing someone to a puddle of goo. Disorient allows the character to confuse or weaken opponents. Disrupt reduces the effectiveness of powers. Domination. Take control of the target's brainwaves. Control a particular element with elemental anima. Elemental mastery is similar to but transcends elemental anima. Whereas elemental anima allows Nova to manipulate an existing element, elemental mastery allows them to actually create that element. So, for example, it'd be Storm versus Thor. Storm can control any existing element. Thor can create lightning. Empathic manipulation. Control and manipulate the target's emotions. So, Bear and I was talking about a character he had in a dream that basically would manipulate a person's dreams, make them think that basically do Inception, get into someone's dreams, make them think something, and then they would act upon those things also as if it was their own thoughts. You could do that sort of with empathic manipulation. You're not so much controlling their memories, but you're controlling their emotions. Entropy control, entropic forces. So basically, entropy control can do make objects break down. You can make organic things break down. You can create a shield of entropy. You can corrupt the chances, probability. It's basically called bad luck. ESP allows the character to sense the surrounding from a focus point at range. Flight, pretty self-explanatory. Gravity control. Force fields. So this is similar to armor, but it's a little bit more variable. Then we've got Halo, which creates images. So, for example, going with the Inception character, you could go Halo, throw a limitation on it like only in dreams. Or you could create a power that was basically like any of these other mastery powers or anima powers, and basically be dream mastery. Healing basically allows you to heal others. Homunculus allows you to break your body into parts and send those parts off to create chaos. Hyper movement is super speed without needing to have Mega Dexterity's sub movement of fast movement. Hypnosis is a low level power, allows you to control people, but not nearly as powerful as like domination abilities. Immobilize, as the name applies, you touch someone and they stop moving. Followed by immolation, which creates a body with a damaging aura. There's invisibility, there's intuition, basically spider sense. There's luck, so Black Cat, for example. Invulnerability, another one that's basically provides. So invulnerability is interesting. It provides 6 soak per dot against a specific type of attack. Now you might think, well, why would I get invulnerability? Why wouldn't I get invulnerability instead of armor? Because they're both level 2 powers. The big difference between invulnerability and armor is armor offers base soak against 3/3 versus lethal bashing. Invulnerability is to a specific type of attack. So, for example, let's see if I can find one. The character must choose the type of attack which the vulnerability applies. Typical applications of it are based upon a given phenomenon. Fire attacks, rather than a specific power. Quantum bolt. Some possible examples include any one type of attack from any one attack form defined by elemental, animal, or animal mastery. Fire, ice, earth, or light. Magnetic attacks or mental powers. Characters may not choose to be invulnerable to quantum powers or physical attacks or energy attacks unless you take the broad category extra, in which case you can be invulnerable to physical attacks or energy attacks, but not quantum powers. That's way too broad a spectrum. So invulnerability is far more limited in scope, but gives you better resistances. So for example, Juggernaut might be saying when he has his helmet on to have invulnerability to mental attacks. Magnetic mastery, I think we all know what that is. Matter chameleon, so allows the character to duplicate the properties of a specific type of matter. You touch a 2x4 and you gain the properties of a 2x4. Matter creation. Creates matter of various sources. You can literally create matter out of nothing. You can create matter in its raw form, as an ordinary iron or wood, or you can create actual objects and devices such as a sword, a computer, or a chair. Mental blast, basically causes a level of bashing damage per success, can knock the target out. Mirage creates illusions in the target's mind, so maybe that would be what Bear and Ice character would want. Matter manipulation, use controllers to manipulate and control molecules. Very powerful. Poison. Characters such can poison or infect another person. Premonition, sort of an improved version of the spider sense. Precognition, going even higher level. Psychic shield. Quantum bolt, so that's our classic energy blast. Quantum construct, basically think Green Lantern, but you also need to have some level of force field, which makes sense. Quantum conversion. So quantum conversion is something considered one of the more unusual powers Nova displays, and potentially one of the useful ones to practice everyday sense. Allows the Nova to convert part of his personal quantum energies, his quantum pool, into standard forms of super quantum energies, such as heat, fire, or electricity. Quantum imprint copies the powers and abilities of another Nova. Quantum leech. It successfully transfers quantum points from the target Nova to the Nova using quantum leech. So you steal their ability to actually use their powers. Quantum regeneration. Spend willpower to add quantum points recovered per hour. Quantum vampire. Divine. This basically steals attributes or powers from a target Nova. Sensory shield. Cancels out the strobe effect. There's shapeshift. Shroud, which is basically creates a field to stifle senses. Each success subtracts one from the effective perception traits. Growth and shrinking. The strobe effect. Each disables one of the target's senses for a turn. A stun attack. Daze or knock out a target. Telekinesis. Telepathy. teleport. Temporal manipulation. This is an interesting one. So with temporal manipulation, this allows you to do some really crazy shit, but you can't actually time travel. This is manipulating time, not traveling through time. It's like elemental animal or mastery. So some examples they give is this technique is known by all time manipulators and does not use up a dial of the power. A character with temporal manipulation possesses a highly accurate internal clock. He always knows exactly how much time has passed between two events and can mentally time events as if using an extremely precise stopwatch. This ability requires no roll and costs no quantum points. It functions automatically. Age alteration. This ability allows a Nova to make another person age rapidly or regress back to his youth. For each success achieved on a manipulation plus temporal manipulation roll, Nova may add or subtract up to 2 years from the target's age. Accelerate time. So each success on a temporal manipulation roll allows the character to take one additional action per turn. They're basically in a bubble of fast time. Dilate time. It's the reverse of accelerate time. You put a bubble person inside of a bubble of dilated time, reducing their initiative essentially. And of course, stop time. The person cannot move or use any powers or abilities. He does not aid. He cannot be affected by and is unaware of any outside force, phenomenon, or attack while in suspension. Stop time is very difficult to set up. Warp is basically teleport by opening up a warp gate. Weather manipulation. And now we're on to all of the extras. But this is only a handful of the powers. Give me a second. I'll open up the player's guide. Because there are a lot of powers. Alright, new power. Momentum control. You can manipulate inertia in the area. So they can swap the momentum with someone, rotate it around, changing the motion of an object, can transform it. Ah yes, the level 4 powers, playing with the big boys. These are the powers that really make you a god among men. Cross time travel. I should move between alternate universes. Disease authority. Particular power over illness and disease. So basically poison on steroids. Elemental authority. Can create, alter, or control substances or phenomena on a broad scale. Molecular authority. As you can kind of tell, these level 4 powers are basically the level 3 powers on steroids. And these are only the level 4 powers. Wait until we get to the level 5 and level 6 powers. Ecological supremacy, for example. You kind of see they just kind of get more and more insane. Create consciousness. Enhance consciousness. Groupthink. Suppress consciousness. You can kind of see why some of the higher level novas can kind of inspire fear on a grand scale, because these are the kind of powers they have access to. Quantum supremacy. Time travel. Consummate mastery, level 6 powers. Creation ex nihilo. Planck scaling. Quantum inferno. Universe creation. Alright, let's see here. Storyteller's Guidebook. Alright, so there's no powers specifically listed in there. Let me see what else I can find you guys. Just to kind of give you an idea of powers. Was there any in the elites? I can't recall. Yeah, it's not really... Don't really need to look into this, do we? We've kind of covered all the powers that we need to cover, and if there are other powers you want to do, you can always talk with one of us admins. So let's go to whiskey shots. Claws. I'm putting that in as a technically it's a limitation. Just level 1 claws, permanent. We have yeah, they got the level 6 ones in there. Body modification. I'm not quite sure what other powers I want to give her. She may actually be good as she is. Oh, right. I don't need to give her... Matter creation. That should pretty much do it for whiskey shots. When we come back, we'll deal with initiative, movement, so figuring out how many health bars they got, so on and so forth. But I think we've done this for about an hour and a half. I think that's a pretty good primer on creating a character in the Aberant system. So I think I'll end it here. And I hope to see you guys in the Nova Age.